Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good.
Am I
So,
audible and clear?
yeah, you audible, cracking a little bit, but let's see how it kind of
Okay,
progresses.
so shall I just put in the earplugs? Just give me a second.
Sure. Okay, good evening to all our viewers. So, today we have with us Ms. Trishlaa Challani, who's an interior designer and a principal designer at Bold Interior Stories from Chennai. And Trishla has been providing with interior styling across the country. She has a lot of accolades to her name. She's been awarded as Young Woman Entrepreneur of the Year. She's also been awarded the upcoming Best Interior Designer and Best International Influencer. At the same time, as I've previously said, that she's also been one of the principal designers who's been conducting workshops on interiors in India as well as Dubai. So, welcome Trishla to this today's session, and
Thank you so
uh,
much.
and it's a pleasure to have you today. And the topic of the day is using doors and windows as an element of design in your interiors. So I'll just start with the first question, and before that, I'll tell my viewers that if they have any question, they can type in, and we'll try and accommodate as many questions that they have. So the
Totally.
first question is that, as per you, what are the factors that can influence the design of doors and windows when you kind of take up a project or when you are conceptualizing a project?
I actually really love having windows in my projects because the more the natural light, any design, anything you add on, it looks amazing. So, people generally like to cover them up, but actually, when we use the right framing or the right product for our doors and windows, it actually enhances our space. So, the more the windows, the more exciting the project gets to me. Like, I try to find out if I can make more openings also, because in that way, you can create a lot of aesthetic appeal as well with it. It adds on a lot of value. Like you do contemporary, you do eclectic, you do even classical. It really adds on an amazing value with doors and windows.
Okay. So what about something about the texture, the colors? I mean, I'll be very frank. Most of the times, people have acknowledged our product, or let's say the aluminum windows, more for exterior applications. Why? Because they're designed on structural stability, water resistance, air filtration, thermal resistance. So, I mean, I would definitely love to know what are the main factors that you considered when you are using them for interiors. I mean, in terms of textures, colors, I would say even materials, whatever you think is important for you to design for interiors.
Say, when it comes to windows, okay, the first thing people see is the stability and the strength of it. Because, it's a covering, like, from your exteriors to your interiors. So the strength and the stability and aluminum, like from the time I studied until now, it's grown amazing as a material. Like now people enjoy using aluminum. Before they used to just consider it as an economical material. But now with the range, aluminum has grown into, it looks amazing. Like, you can create into various patterns, textures, and when you talk about textures, I really love in even in those like subtle shades. Like say when we have that matte black finish aluminum windows, or you go with some nice wood finished aluminum windows. Both can add beautiful aesthetic appeal to the space. Let it be exterior, let it be interior. In both the ways, they look amazing. So with aluminum, the way it's evolved as a product, it's amazing right now. Like the way you guys can customize, we work very closely, right, with the companies who do windows and doors for us. We tell them that, this is how our imagination is. And you support us the best way you can with, coming up with good coats of colors or, the stability of it. So textures, the durability of the texture matters a lot because again, it's exposed to different kind of temperatures and, you know, um, rain or say sun and all of that. The next thing which is very, very important about the window is the way it's framed. the thickness of the frame. Like, that decides the heaviness of the interiors. Like, if I put a very heavy frame, it sort of makes the place look smaller, and, it makes the space look a bit heavy. Whereas if I go with a nice, sleeker frame, it makes it look a bit more lighter, a bit more like, huge. So these are some of the factors which are very, very important when I consider it when I'm designing, like, the windows and all of that.
Okay, I have a question which is an add-on to this. That normally we've heard that, in smaller spaces, if the paint colors are brighter, it makes the space looks bigger. I mean, I'm not
Correct.
an architect, so I may be wrong and you can correct me. But if that is so, uh, do you also think that the window color also makes a difference? Or maybe, the walls can be white and you can play with your colors on the windows in that case?
We
Example,
can
if
work.
you, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I picked up from your answer wherein you said that, black textured windows. So if we have a black texture window, we are in any which ways looking at, creating some kind of, I can't put it in the right words, but maybe a dark appeal. But what do you think that window colors do help in making the space look bigger, or it doesn't really matter? Why? Because in any which ways the light is coming through the glass.
No, it can be a good conceptual design, right? So with your window frame color, I can create a complete aesthetic look even with that. The way I'm dividing my window panels and all of that. So like say if I'm, having the entire room, it's a small room, say even an 8 by 8 room. If I'm having the entire room to be a complete white synchronized theme, but too much of white and brightness also cannot give you a good vibe in a space. So I have to cut down that brightness with maybe a matte finish, black windows. So when I add that, it kind of breaks my monotonous white color, and it makes it look even more, appealing and aesthetically beautiful as well. And plus, you have a utility, right? You have your natural light pouring in.
So basically, I mean, the key takeaway being that you also use windows for the colors that you can give it so as to, play with the creativity of the space.
Exactly. It's a very amazing tool, a very safe tool to play around with your creativity as well. Because, it cannot break down your space at any point because of the natural light it has to back you off with. So it's one of the, I would say, safest tool to play around with your creativity.
All right, great. So let's move on to the second question. Now, where, these days in the contemporary mode, minimalism has set in,
True.
right? So, I mean, I'm sure you're aware that aluminum also has minimal windows. Most of the companies have it. So, what all choices do we have? I mean, example, how can doors and windows add to the aesthetics of the overall design with respect to the minimal look or the classic look? What's your view on that?
See, like I work on both the concepts. Like I work even on the minimalism design pattern, even on the classic. So when it goes to classical style, the textured with door, window panels, or like, some which has more of detailing into it, like say grooves and all of that. Whereas when we go to minimalistic, it is more of seamless way the space looks. So let it be having a door, let it be having a window. The seamlessness adds on a lot of character to minimalism and contemporary pattern, whereas classical detailing adds more. So let it be you go with aluminum, let it be you go with like fiberglass, let it be we go with wood, anything we go with it. But all of these, the way we showcase it in the project matters. So even with aluminum, I can create a classical pattern by going with a bit of woody grained frames and all of that. The same thing with wood, I can create a minimalism pattern by going with the sleek frames. So over here, it is more on how I'm going to portray it than like, how I'm going to be setting that off with my theme. So whether I'll be going with aluminum, whether I'll be going with fiberglass, whether I'll be going with wood, that depends on my site's condition or my client's criteria. So, that matters the most here. But in all the three, I can still set the look in which way I want. Because all the materials can support me in the way I want it to be done.
Okay. Now, another adding on to this. Now, let's take an example when we are talking of minimalism. Obviously, people prefer minimal system designs or let's say slim design systems these days. Now, what is the preference that you personally have for corner glass solutions? Because normally people have corners and bay windows and they want a glass to glass joint so that they can have a seamless inside outside view. Now, but when you have a double glass, you definitely have that black strip that's visible on the corners,
Yeah.
right? Although, I mean, it can be done up in a very good fashion by using glazed surfaces on both sides and getting the glass made more in a chamfered shape rather than the conventional straight edged. But what is your personal view? How would you treat that in terms of interiors when you have, a black line, or you would prefer a seamless look by using a single glass to glass joint at the corners?
No, I really like the aluminum frame, or the joint which falls into the center. That it because it kind of creates a pattern. Say, how much ever you seamless try to go, at some point of the time or the other, it kind of just like camouflages. But when you create that pattern with the material, it kind of creates a visual that yes, my corner is properly sorted, it is well done, and it kind of brings in that kind of a feel that yes, it gives it is a more of a modern contemporary pattern, and it gives you that essence of the space. So I really like the joint which comes, with that proper edge and everything. So I really prefer going for aluminum there, because that
So you're saying
aluminum,
that you basically prefer a member at the corner rather than a glass to glass joint.
yes,
Okay.
I would really prefer it, because that
Oh,
frame kind of adds a lot of aesthetic appeal to the space.
yes, I mean, totally to your design. I mean, if
Yeah,
at the end of the day, when we look at windows in silos, there may be many things to comment, but ultimately the context is what the architect defines
totally,
for the window and the way it should be used. So if you can use the
totally,
corner well, I mean, pretty good. I mean, you can actually improvise your design for that to look out well in the overall scheme of things. Okay,
totally.
so let's move on to the next question. When it comes to selecting doors and windows, I mean, we have multiple applications, residential, commercial, offices, etc. So how do you go about, selecting window solutions when it comes to these three different applications? Or anything that you think the viewers should be looking at when they're doing, their residences, or for that matter, commercial or offices, etc.
So, firstly, like whether it's a commercial or whether it's a residential, I'd first see is the thickness of the wall which I'm working on. A lot of office spaces, my wall thickness is quite less. Like I just get around say 4.5 to 6 inches. And residential, I do get 9 inches at times, but even in residential, in a lot of cases, I just get 6 inches wall thickness. So what are the elements I'm going to be placing in there? Say for one of the project, like which we are working on, is a classical style of a space, wherein like we have to place the window, we have to place the grill, and then we have to bring in a classical style of jharoka interior side of the house. Okay, so we're having three elements present there. So in such cases, I have to be very sure about the thickness of the wall which I'm getting, like according to my pattern. So if I see something like that, then I would like to go with a sleeker aluminum frame, then the grill, and then my jharoka, which I'm using it as an interior curtain. Okay, so that is one thing. Then secondly is for the offices majorly, like as I design or as I've designed till now, I always preferred aluminum and fiberglass frames than wood, because we go with more of those matte finish or solid colors than with woody grains. And aluminum and fiberglass gives a very beautiful output when it comes to solid colors. So for the commercial spaces, I've majorly preferred that. Whereas for the residential, it is between like fiberglass and wood. So either of them, depending on the concept, we have chosen that. A
Okay,
lot of
and have
people
you
are not, yeah, a lot of people don't prefer wood maintenance and all of that.
oh, but
So
then
we go with
are you talking
fiberglass.
about, yeah, so okay, so are you, sorry, I mean, sorry to interrupt you there. Are you talking about wooden finish, aluminum or UPVC windows, or wood as a
Uh,
material?
so natural wood also as a material. If not, then aluminum going with wood grains also looks equally good.
All right. So let's move on to the next question. So, what are the key elements that you kind of consider while selecting the hardware or the windows? Now, here the question can be actually bifurcated into two aspects. One is the aesthetic look of the hardware, whatsoever is visible. I mean, in our terminology, hardware is something which goes into the windows, but accessories is something which is visible in the elevation. And the second is, what are your preferred functionally durable locking mechanisms or operating mechanisms? And if you've used these products, what is it that you found as a problem in, so that our viewers know that what is good and what is not preferred by, I would say, an unbiased architect to recommend for use as in hardware.
See, actually, whenever we decide a hardware for a door or a window, the first and the foremost thing we see is the seamless look. Like we don't want anything to pop out from anywhere. Let it be a hinge of an openable window or like, a very weird sliding channel of an sliding window. It could be anything. We just don't want that to be visible. So hardware, we just try to like, make it look as seamless as it could. Then the next thing could be the handle of it. Again, the handle, like, for the sliding door, you would see it's that push one. You pull it out, you slide it, and you put it back where it again looks very seamless kind of a thing. So it's a knob kind of a thing, which we put it out, we slide it, and we put it back. So I really like my hardware to be very seamless and to the same color of the window. Like I don't really want that pop of that color being seen, that SS finish or a brass finish being visible anywhere. So it's always in that seamless format. But yeah, hardware, whenever we are going for door and windows, the brand, the quality of the brand is very, very important. Like, say, I just cannot go with any random person. I have to be assured that, yes, this brand would give me a quality product. So that one trust is very, very important for us because, because it's not a product which can be changed every year. It is something which is going to be fixed and it is going to be there for at least like say 15, 20 years or even say beyond that. I'm just saying a minimum of 15, 20 years, right? So I cannot really go about with anybody. So in this, I wouldn't mind spending on my doors and windows, like for the quality, than I just go with anything and everything. So quality over here with the brand matters a lot. So if you can trust the brand, then 100% it's sorted. We don't have to worry about the rest.
So, okay, your preference is having seamless operating
Completely.
handles, and at the same time, you would rely on the brand value of the hardware that you are using so as to build a confidence in terms of its operational efficiency,
Totally.
right? And
So,
durability. Okay, great.
totally.
So let's move on to the next question, which is, yeah, so which is about what are the different kind of typologies of doors and windows that you would prefer to use in a house? I mean, we all know we have slidings, we have, three track with mesh shutters, we have slide and folds, we have corner openings. I mean, multiple solutions in terms of typologies have come into the market with the introduction of engineered window systems. So what are your personal favorites, and how do you think, you use them for residential projects?
So, like, my favorites are completely, they change as per my projects. So, if my project needs that particular element, then it has to be there. Like, say, if it is an apartment and, this apartment has a very beautiful window in the living. Now, they would need a mesh because if they keep it open in the evenings due to, like, pests
Yeah.
and mosquitoes and all of that. So, like, the best way they can utilize it, I'll go with that particular option. So if it is a corner window, like I really love those corner windows, corner windows having a nice seating, making it look very cozy. So if the corner window is available, I would go with the best option for that again. So I do not bifurcate that I want sliding windows everywhere or I want only casement windows or I want only windows with like, sliding doors with mesh. If that particular project needs it, we should go for it. We should not just go with one thing only everywhere. And the more we experiment, the more we will be able to come up with new solutions. We'll be able to come with new ideas and also better solutions for our clients also. Now, if I just give them everywhere just a sliding window, not understanding the utility of the client, then it won't make sense, right? If they need a mesh there, I should give them a mesh with a sliding window. So first, understand your site, understand the utility of the space, and then just go with the typography. But the best one is sliding with the mesh because you can keep your windows open, you can get good natural air, and plus don't worry about the mosquitoes or any of the pests, flies or anything. Yeah.
And I think also the sliding windows save space. Why?
Hmm.
Because when you have casement windows, they end up kind of opening outside and opening
True.
inside. the width of the shutter takes up that space for either the furniture or a movement of the person in the balconies, etc.
Correct.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good suggestion for using sliding windows, especially in smaller spaces, so that you
Yeah,
can
because
save on some space as well.
you in a lot of apartments we don't even have a balcony.
Yeah.
Compact houses, you don't even have a balcony. So those windows do a job of both the things, of giving you a vibe of a balcony along with, having a good natural breeze and all of that. So sliding door is like the best. At least you're able to open it and keep it for the day.
Okay, so the next question now. What are your preferred materials of windows? I mean, vinyl, aluminum, wood, fiberglass, basis aesthetics, as well as energy efficiency. So what are your preferred materials and
So
why?
I majorly go with aluminum and fiberglass in various finishes. So these are like majorly preferred materials. The reason how aluminum is evolved as a material, like how premium it has got, the kind of features it has now. It's very convenient to use it anywhere and everywhere. The kind of finishes and everything. And fiberglass is also my next option because of its utility, like the maintenance of the material. So these are like the two best materials of my choice, which I generally go forward for when it comes to windows specifically.
And when you're talking about windows in aluminum, are you also looking at a cold section or you prefer to use a thermal break? I mean, obviously it's a no-brainer, you'll say thermal break, but as per the customer's choice.
Yeah, as per the customer's choice, but I always prefer to educate them with the right choice. That why I want them to use this because see again I'd like to mention that windows are not something change which we can change just like say after a year if we don't like. It is one thing which is going to be there irrespective of how many ever times you change your interiors. Your interiors we would they change every 5 years also or every 3 years also depending on how a person can afford. But whereas windows they will not change that often. Windows are going to be structured there. So I would always prefer to educate them that see these thermals are the best because of a lot of things points. Yeah.
Okay, very well said. So let's move on to our last question of the session, wherein how do you go about placement of windows in a residential project? And something that you can tell our viewers about how they should also be looking at the placement of windows.
I wish I had that option. Because generally when we do interiors, all of those things are 90% done in apartments. But whereas in individual residences, we are able to modify a bit. I always like them to be centered on the wall. That's first best preferred option. Like say if it is a 10 feet wall properly in the center, you give me even an 8 feet window just with 2 feet border of the wall, it's fine. But I really love it if it is framed in the center. If not, cornered windows in a bedroom where you have a nice cornered, cozy window in the bedroom looks amazing. So these are my two
So,
best options.
so when you talk about the corner, are you talking about bay windows wherein the corners are fixed, or you're talking about the sliding corners wherein the corner,
Sliding,
shutters slide open?
sliding. I don't want it to be fixed corner. I want to open the window, sit there and enjoy my coffee or, that has to be a bit more, human touch kind of a thing. So like a fixed one is not kind of my preference. I really like the windows to be opened in India.
Okay,
That
great.
slide
So,
corner sliding is like one of the best options which we have got with time. Like, before if you see a cornered window a few years back, it's always a fixed glass. You
yeah.
cannot really operate it. But as engineered windows have taken up a role, like now we have amazing options for the corner sections.
Yes. So, thank you very much, Trishla, for joining us today. Any last words you'd like to kind of say about either about, something to do more with doors and windows in interiors, or last words for viewers?
Don't close your windows. Use them as your aesthetic element because they add on a lot of value to your work. Like the more the openings, the more amazing a project looks. So don't try to close them. Instead, just use them as an aesthetic element and create some amazing patterns with it.
Great. Thank you very much for
Thank
today's
you so much.
session, Trishla. We hope to see you when we visit Chennai next, and you're most welcome to visit us whenever you are visiting Chandigarh next.
Totally, totally. I will be really very happy to do that. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
Thank you very
inviting.
much. Bye bye.
Bye.